don't know how attractive you actually are, not because you're blind, but because you've been taught to look in the wrong places. You think attraction is about a six-pack, a luxury car, the right haircut, the perfect joke at the perfect time. But let me tell you something most men never realize. Women see things differently. They notice the way you sit with silence. They notice how you enter a room. They feel your presence before they ever process your looks. And most of the time, you don't even realize you're being watched. That's what this video is about. You think you're just some guy, but to her, you're the reason she fixes her hair twice in the mirror. You're the one she avoids making eye contact with, because when she does, her heart skips and she doesn't want you to know. You've been walking through life thinking you're invisible. But what if I told you you've been the main character in her story, quietly, from the background? Stoicism teaches us not to chase validation, but that doesn't mean we ignore truth. So today, I'm going to show you the quiet signs, the subtle glances, the controlled silences, the way she orbits you without ever saying your name, that prove you're far more magnetic than you think. And once you learn how to see it, you'll stop trying so hard and start standing in your power. So before we dive in, make sure you subscribe, because this channel isn't for guys chasing tips and tricks. It's for men ready to become undeniable. Let's begin. Number 1. You don't see what she sees. Let me tell you something most men never hear. You're probably way more attractive than you think. Not in the mirror, not on paper, but in the way you show up. See, you've been living inside your head your whole life. You've seen every failure, every rejection, every time someone overlooked you. So you internalized that version of yourself. You convinced yourself, I'm just average. But here's the twist. Women don't see you that way. They're not sizing you up the way you size up yourself. A woman's attraction isn't built on a checklist. It's triggered by energy, by subtle cues, by the way you hold space. You might not notice how calm you are when chaos hits, but she does. You might not realize how deeply you listen, but she feels it. You don't think twice when you make eye contact and say nothing. But for her, that silence is louder than any compliment. You're sitting there thinking you need to do more or be more, but often your restraint is what makes you magnetic. It's how you don't interrupt. It's how you don't over-explain. It's how you don't seek validation from her or anyone. That's the Stoic edge. You're steady, and in a world of noise, that stillness is power. Here's the thing. A woman is wired to notice subtleties. Your tone, your timing, your tension. She catches things you didn't even mean to reveal, but because you don't notice it, you assume it's not there. Let me give you a real example. There's a man who walks into a coffee shop every morning. Same clothes, same order, doesn't say much, but he stands tall. He moves with quiet confidence. He doesn't look around for approval. He looks through things focused. He doesn't flirt. He doesn't perform. He doesn't chase. But the barista fixes her hair before he steps in. Another woman times her break to accidentally stand behind him in line. He has no clue, because he's not trying. That's exactly why it works. We live in a culture where men think attraction is loud. Showy cars, flashy watches, exaggerated confidence. But that's just noise. Real attraction is felt, not announced. And the truth is, your daily discipline, your focus, your presence, those are the things women feel before they even know your name. So the next time you catch her looking twice, or find out she asked about you when you weren't around, or she lingers just a second too long, don't question it. Don't sabotage it with self-doubt. Just understand. You've been showing her something real, even if you weren't trying to. That's the beauty of it. You don't need to chase approval. You just need to see yourself the way she already does. Now, before we move on, there's a side of attraction most men miss. And once you learn to spot it, everything shifts. Stick with me. Number 2. Women hide attraction on purpose. Here's something most men don't understand. If a woman is truly drawn to you, she often won't show it. In fact, the more she feels, the more she hides. Sounds backward, right? You've been taught to look for obvious signals. Flirting, smiling, laughter, compliments. But the deeper truth, those are often reserved for the men she's not truly invested in. When a woman is genuinely attracted, there's something at stake. She becomes vulnerable, exposed. And for a woman who values control, that's terrifying. So instead, she covers it. She downplays it. She may even go cold. Now, this doesn't mean she's playing games. It means her emotional system is protecting itself. Let's break this down. Biologically, women are more selective. From an evolutionary standpoint, they carry the greater risk in reproduction, so their wiring has developed around caution, not exposure. This means even in the modern world, where dating apps and DMs are flying, her instincts still tell her to be guarded, to test, to wait. So when she feels a real pull toward you, when she starts imagining what it would be like to be yours, that instinct kicks in. Hide it. Don't give it away. Make him earn it. You might notice she's warm one day, distant the next. She replies with fewer emojis. She looks away when you make eye contact. She seems less expressive in public. You think you're losing her. But what's actually happening is this. She's recalibrating. She's checking herself. She doesn't want you to know how much power you already hold. And that's exactly when most men mess up. They sense the emotional shift and start chasing. They text more, compliment more, initiate more, trying to pull the attention back. But the Stoic man does the opposite. He stands still. He doesn't overreact to her withdrawal. He recognizes it for what it is, a sign of real tension, real attraction. Think about this. Would she go cold if she didn't care? Would she analyze every little thing you said if she wasn't feeling something deeper? Of course not. She's hiding attraction because she's protecting herself from looking too easy, or worse, from losing a man who doesn't feel the same. And here's the irony. That silence, that distance, it's a test, not of your interest, but of your centeredness. Do you lose your balance when she shifts? Do you need her validation to feel solid? She's watching, not for your compliments, but for your composure. Let me give you a situation. You're at a party. She sees you. You used to flirt casually. There was tension, but tonight she barely makes eye contact. You assume she's lost interest. But what's actually happening? She's watching from the corner. She notices who you talk to. She notices how other women laugh around you. She's seeing if you'll seek her, or if you'll stay grounded. That distance isn't disinterest. It's observation. It's self-protection. And underneath all of it, it's desire. Your job. Don't perform. Don't chase. Just hold the frame. This is where Stoicism meets masculinity. Not reacting emotionally. Not overinterpreting her silence. Not spiraling when things feel uncertain. It's knowing that what's unspoken often says more than what's said. And once you understand that, you start seeing her silence differently. You see it as part of the dance, not the end of it. So the next time she pulls back, ask yourself, is she retreating or revealing how much I matter? Big difference. And now that you've got this perspective, the next sign we're about to discuss will change the way you interpret her presence, even when she's not speaking a single word. Number 3, she stays in orbit. She's not reaching out. She's not asking to see you. She's not telling her friends she wants you back. But she's there, watching your stories, liking random posts from 2 months ago, dropping a reaction to your gym photo after weeks of silence. She's in orbit. She's keeping just enough distance not to commit, but staying just close enough not to disappear. Most guys misread this. They either chase harder, thinking they've almost got her back, or they ignore it completely, thinking she's just being polite. But here's the truth. Staying in orbit is not random. It's deliberate. It's a strategy, sometimes conscious, sometimes not, but always rooted in emotion. See, when a woman orbits you, she's avoiding the vulnerability of coming back outright, but she's also not ready to face your full absence. Stoic philosophy reminds us to look at what people do, not what they say. And what she's doing, whether it's checking your stories or responding to old messages, is showing you she's still emotionally connected. She wants to feel close. She wants to be seen, but she wants it on her terms. Now here's where most men lose themselves. They respond. One breadcrumb leads to a message. A story view leads to a text. And suddenly she's got confirmation. You're still there, still waiting, still orbiting here. But a grounded man, a stoic man, doesn't take the bait. He sees the orbit for what it is, proximity without responsibility, and he doesn't reward that with attention. Instead, he stays centered, because the more you chase orbit behavior, the more you lose your gravity. You don't want to become a man who responds to signals that cost her nothing to send. Let's break this down with a real-world example. You stop talking. Weeks pass. You start posting pictures again, maybe at the gym, out with friends, leveling up. And suddenly she reacts. Not with a message, not with vulnerability, just a heart emoji or a subtle like. What she's doing is emotional temperature checking. She wants to see if she still matters. She wants to know if you still care. But she doesn't want to give you the satisfaction of knowing she cares. It's control without confrontation. That's orbit. And it's your job not to drift into it. In Stoic terms, this is about being unmoved by what's outside your control. You can't force her to land, but you can control whether you keep your position or float into her game. A man who stands still, focused on his own path, becomes the center of gravity. Eventually, if her feelings are real, she'll come closer, not just with likes, but with presence, with clarity. And if she doesn't, you haven't lost anything, because you never left your center. That's real power, and it's rare. Now let me ask you, have you ever felt this? That strange feeling when she's gone, but somehow she's still there? You're not imagining it. And that leads me to this. Sometimes what she doesn't say is louder than any message she could send. If any part of this hit home for you, here's what I want you to do. Take 5 seconds, scroll down, and drop this in the comments. I've felt that. That one sentence tells me you're not just watching, you're waking up. And here's the reason you need to stick around. This pattern of orbiting is just the surface. The next piece goes deeper into how attention becomes a weapon and why some women won't come back until they feel you've fully moved on. Don't miss that. It might shift how you see everything. Number 4. When she can't stop looking. There's a look some women give that says everything without saying a word. It's not lust. Not exactly. It's curiosity, hunger, even confusion. You feel it when she's across the room. Her eyes catch you, then drift away like nothing happened. A moment later, she's looking again and again. She's not smiling. She's not flirting. But her eyes are loud. What you're seeing is called prolonged visual focus. In psychology, it's often unconscious. A person stares at what draws them in emotionally, even when they try not to. It's especially true for women when attraction is present, but not fully processed. Now here's the catch. She won't even know she's doing it. That's why you'll see this more when you're not trying. When you're present, calm, self-possessed, living out your own purpose. That's when you notice her gaze lingering just a little longer than it should. And when she looks away quickly when you meet her eyes, that's not rejection. That's exposure. She looked too long. You noticed. And now she's retreating not because she's not interested, but because she is. Stoicism teaches us this. Apparence deceive, but consistent behavior reveals the truth. When a woman keeps checking for you across the gym, the room, the office, it's not just boredom. It's her way of checking her feeling without risking her pride. She might not speak up. She might never make a move. but she keeps looking because part of her wants to understand what she's drawn to, and maybe what she's missing. Let's take a real example. You're at a social gathering. You've had no direct interaction with her all evening, but you've noticed her glance your way twice, then again. Then she seems to hover nearby, pretending to talk to a friend, but angling herself where she can see you. She's creating space to look without giving anything away. Here's where men make a mistake. They either pounce, interpreting it as a green light, or they ignore it completely, dismissing it as nothing. But the right move, the Stoic move, is awareness without reaction. You notice, you acknowledge internally, but you don't change your behavior. That's powerful, that's self-command, and that's rare. Because most men need confirmation. They crave signals. But a grounded man doesn't need her to tell him she's watching. He already knows. And he respects the power of letting her keep watching. It's in that silence, in that space, where real attraction grows. Because the more she sees you in your strength, your ease, your direction, the more she'll wonder why she's watching at all. And whether you've noticed, that wondering, it creates desire. Now let's add a Stoic lens to this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Don't mistake her glances for promises. Don't inflate them into fantasies. Simply observe them as they are, signs of inner motion, not outward commitment. She's watching. That's enough. If her eyes keep returning to you, it means something inside her is unsettled. Maybe it's memory. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's something deeper she's not ready to name. Your job isn't to act. It's to remain still. To remain true to your own frame. Now tell me, have you ever caught her watching you when she thought you weren't looking? If you've felt that silent pull, the tension of her eyes chasing your energy, drop it in the comments now. I've seen her. Because that one phrase tells me you understand the game beneath the silence. And if you think this was the peak, you haven't seen what comes next. Some women don't want to watch you forever. They want to haunt your mind, while staying just out of reach. Let's talk about that in the next part. Number 5. Her silence is a signal. Silence doesn't always mean absence. In fact, when it comes to women, it usually doesn't. A woman's silence can be one of the loudest signals you'll ever receive, but only if you know how to read it. Here's what most men get wrong. They assume silence means disinterest. They think if she's not texting, not calling, not reaching out, she's moved on. But often, that silence is doing more than words ever could. It might mean she's waiting. It might mean she's watching. It might mean she's testing. See, in today's world where everyone overshares and overtalks, a woman who goes silent on a man she once connected with is creating space. And space is powerful. Why? Because it forces attention inward. It makes you ask questions. It makes you wonder what she's thinking, what she's feeling, if she's thinking of you at all. And she knows it. In Stoic thought, Epictetus taught us to focus not on what's out of our control, but on our response to it. A silent woman might not be in your control, but how you read that silence, that's on you. Now, let's be clear. Not every silence is seductive. Sometimes, yes, she's just done. But if her silence comes right after deep connection, shared moments, or emotional intensity, it's not apathy, it's strategy, and it's emotional self-preservation. Let me give you a real scenario. A man and woman talk for weeks, texting daily, sharing playlists, trading jokes. Then suddenly she stops. No explanation, no closure. The man spirals. He rereads the chats. He second-guesses himself. He wonders, what did I do? Meanwhile, she's not even mad. She's just measuring how much he cares, how much effort he'll make, how his energy changes when hers disappears. Her silence isn't a goodbye. It's a mirror. What she's looking for in that quiet space isn't necessarily a grand chase, but a signal from you. a sign of consistency, a moment where you don't panic, where you stay grounded. Stoic strength isn't loud. It doesn't beg. It doesn't flinch when attention fades. It stays rooted in value, unshaken by emotional weather. So, what do you do when her silence hits? You don't chase. You don't sulk. You hold your frame. You respond, not react. Maybe you send one calm message that respects her space. Or maybe you say nothing and trust that if she's real, she'll circle back. Either way, you remain sovereign. You don't let her silence steal your power. And here's the part no one tells you. When a woman sees that her silence didn't break you, that's when she's most intrigued. Because she knows how most men fold. She knows how most men beg, plead, over-explain. But when you do none of that, when you stay silent too, but not out of pettiness, out of self-respect, she feels it. And she remembers you differently. Let me say this. Her silence is a signal, but it's not a demand. You don't owe her pursuit. You owe yourself peace. And when she realizes that your world doesn't collapse when she withdraws, that's when her curiosity spikes. That's when your absence starts to echo louder than her presence ever did. Now, let me ask you something straight. Have you ever been through that, where her silence hit harder than her words ever could? If so, type this in the comments. I felt that. Because if you've ever sat with that tension, you know it's not just about missing her voice. It's about realizing your silence spoke louder. And here's the truth. Most men don't hear until it's too late. Sometimes silence isn't distance, it's control. And when you stop being afraid of it, you finally stop playing her game. But this story doesn't end here. Because some women don't just go silent. They show up in your orbit, quietly, pulling you in without ever saying a word. We'll get into that in the next part. Stay with me. Number 6. Your influence speaks louder than words. There's something powerful about a man who doesn't speak much, but somehow, everyone still listens. She remembers what you said last week. She remembers what you didn't say 2 months ago. She notices the way people react when you walk into a room. Why? Because real influence is silent. See, most guys think attraction is built through constant communication, sending texts, giving compliments, always explaining how you feel. But the truth? Words fade. What stays is presence, energy, and impact. If she feels different after being around you, more grounded, more aware, more pulled toward your gravity, you've already said more than you needed to. Think about this. A Stoic man doesn't chase validation. He knows his value is not in being loud, but in being steady. When you walk with intention, when you handle your emotions with control, you create ripples around you. Women feel it, even if they can't name it, even if they won't admit it. Your calm creates tension. Your detachment draws them in. Because while most men flood women with neediness and emotional noise, you create space. And space creates mystery. And mystery is magnetic. You ever notice how she brings up things you never said directly? She tells her friends you're hard to read but still talks about you non-stop. That's influence. It's not about the stories you tell. It's about the story she starts building in her head because of you. And here's the twist. When you're not around, she fills the silence with you. Not because you're constantly in her face, but because your presence lingers long after you're gone. That's the kind of man women remember. Not the one who over-explains. Not the one who tries to impress her with flash. But the one whose quiet confidence rewires how she sees the world. Let's go deeper. A man who lives by Stoic principles doesn't need the spotlight. He's not out here seeking attention. He's grounded in purpose. That's why his influence grows silently. It's the way he handles rejection. The way he stays calm when others explode. The way he doesn't rush to prove himself. And most of all, it's the way he makes people question themselves just by being himself. That, right there, is the power she can't explain. She starts dressing differently when she knows she might run into you. She starts quoting things you once said, She brings up your name even when you're not part of the conversation. Why? Because your influence slipped past her defense. You didn't chase her. You didn't convince her. You simply showed up as the man you are and let your presence do the talking. There's a scene in the movie Drive. Ryan Gosling's character barely speaks, but his silence makes people uneasy. His stillness carries weight. That's not just movie magic. It's real psychology. When a man radiates self-control, discipline, and mystery, he shifts the emotional gravity around him. People lean in, and women, especially, notice. So here's the question. Are you trying to influence her with words or with energy? Because if your energy is rooted in something real, in purpose, in principles, in stillness, you don't have to make her feel something. She already does. Now, I want to hear from you. If you've ever felt your influence growing in silence, without trying to convince or chase, drop this in the comments. I lead quietly. That one sentence says everything. And before we move on, remember this. She may not tell you. She may not show it. But when your presence shifts her mood, her habits, her thoughts, you're already in her head. And the best part? You didn't say a word. But we're just getting started. Because the next thing most men overlook is where she goes when she misses your energy the most. And trust me, it's not what you think. Number 7. The halo effect is real. Here's something most men never realize. A woman doesn't just see your looks. She sees your posture. She sees how others react to you. She sees your vibe. And then, her mind fills in the rest. This is the halo effect. A cognitive bias where one positive trait spills over and colors her perception of everything else about you. And trust me, it's not just about being handsome. It's deeper than that. Let's say you walk into a room confidently. You're not loud. You're not arrogant. But you move with purpose. You make eye contact. You listen more than you speak. Now suddenly, in her mind, you must also be kind, smart, trustworthy, maybe even more successful than you actually are. That's the power of the halo effect. One strong trait like confidence or composure can make you seem like the total package, even if she barely knows you. This happens all the time, especially with men who carry themselves like they know their worth. And here's where Stoicism plays in. The Stoic man doesn't need to impress. He doesn't try to win her over. He just shows up fully grounded, unshaken by judgment, expectation, or outcome. That's rare. And when you embody that kind of presence, people don't just see you. They see what they want to see in you. That's what's wild about attraction. It's often more about her projection than your reality. You're calm. She thinks you must be emotionally mature. You're silent in a crowd. You must be deep and mysterious. You dress well. You must be successful, high status. These assumptions create emotional momentum. She starts investing in the idea of you, and once that happens, she becomes attached without you even trying. But let's not pretend this is manipulation. It's not about faking anything. It's about refining the qualities that matter. The halo effect works for you when you lead with character, when you lead with grounded masculinity, when you take care of your mind, body, and purpose, not to get women, but because that's who you are. Let me give you an example. Ever heard a woman say, "There's just something about him"? That something is usually the result of the halo effect. Maybe you weren't the best-looking guy in the room, but your quiet confidence made her think you were. Maybe you didn't say much at all, but your energy made her assume you were sharp, focused, dangerous in the right way. She connects the dots in your favor. Even your flaws can be reframed. If you're stoic and don't open up easily, she sees it as emotional depth. If you're intense and focused, she sees it as drive. Now imagine what happens when you add integrity to that mix. She'll see you as the full masculine archetype, not just physically attractive, but the kind of man who could lead, protect, and challenge her. This is where things shift. because attraction becomes less about what you do and more about what you trigger inside her. And if your energy triggers her imagination, you're already unforgettable. So the question is, are you creating a presence that makes her mind run wild in your favor? Or are you trying to explain, prove, and convince her into liking you? One works, the other pushes her away. Don't chase approval. Radiate value. Don't beg for interest. Be the man who assumes interest because you've done the work to be interesting. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Detach from the need to control the outcome. Master yourself instead. And when you do, the halo effect kicks in without effort. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed a woman treat you differently just because of how you carried yourself? If so, write this in the comments below. I own presence. It tells me you're not just learning this, you're living it. And look, we're not done yet, because the next sign is subtle. But once you understand it, you'll start seeing just how much power you've had all along. Stay with me. Number 8. You change the room. You ever walk into a room and everything shifts? The conversation slows, people glance, the energy tightens just a little. And suddenly, it's like people feel you before you say a word. That's not an accident. That's presence. And it's one of the most underrated signs of how attractive you really are. See, most men think attractiveness is about features, jawline, height, style. But some of the most magnetic men don't have perfect features at all. What they do have is a powerful energetic signature. When they walk in, the room responds. Now here's the thing. Women notice this before they consciously realize it. She feels it in her gut. Something about the way you enter, the way you scan the room, the way you stand, not seeking validation, but owning your space. It doesn't scream for attention. It commands it. This is what we mean when we say, you change the room. And it's not about ego. It's not about being the loudest guy in the group. It's about internal authority. Think about a Stoic man. He walks into any space not asking, do they like me? But instead, can I remain true to who I am in this space? That mindset alone shifts your body language. Your shoulders sit back. Your pace slows. Your eye contact becomes steadier. You become someone others adjust to rather than the other way around. Women are wired to pick up on this. It's biological. Her subconscious is always scanning for cues of safety, strength, and status. When you walk in with composed intensity, she doesn't need to hear anything to feel intrigued. You've already said enough with your presence. But let's make this even more practical. If you want to change the room, you have to change your relationship with yourself. You can't expect others to feel you if you're constantly second-guessing yourself. You can't influence a space if your energy is scattered and needy. This is where Stoicism becomes your edge. The Stoic man doesn't fake confidence. He builds it through discipline, through clarity, through detachment from outcome. That's why when he enters a room, it's not about trying, it's about being. And the craziest part, the more at ease you are in yourself, the more disruptive your presence becomes. You start noticing something strange. People lean in, they talk softer, they mirror your pace. Even women who didn't notice you at first now start to wonder, who is he? They feel something, and what they feel is power without performance. So, let me ask you, have you ever walked into a room and felt the temperature change? Then type this in the comments. I shift energy. Because if that's true, if you know you're the kind of man who bends the energy around him, then the game isn't about chasing attention. It's about controlling your signal. And we're about to go deeper into that next. Because what I'll show you next is the exact reason why some men are unforgettable even when they say nothing. Stick around. Number 9. Other men feel it too. There's a moment every man has felt it. You walk into a bar, a gym, maybe just a quiet room, and before a single word is spoken, another guy clocks you. It's not hostility. It's not admiration either. It's assessment. He feels something. Maybe it's the way you carry yourself. Maybe it's the calm in your eyes. But something about you unsettles the part of him that wonders if you're the one he's supposed to measure himself against. Let's get real for a second. Women aren't the only ones reading you. Other men pick up on your energy too. And whether they admit it or not, they notice your presence, especially when it makes them second-guess their own. This is one of the most surprising signs that you're more attractive, more dominant than you realize. Because while women are tuned into safety and strength, men are subconsciously tuned into status and hierarchy. And when you operate with quiet confidence, when you don't play games or overcompensate, other men feel that. Not through what you say, but through what you don't need to say. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The most confident men? They don't flinch when another confident man enters. They respect it. It's only the insecure ones, the ones wearing a mask of fake bravado, who tense up. They get louder, more performative. They start posturing in subtle ways. And women see this play out like a silent movie. They notice how one man stays centered, while another starts to compete with a ghost. This is why Stoicism is such a power play. The Stoic man doesn't walk into a room trying to be the alpha. He simply isn't moved by things outside his control, including how other men react to him. His calm makes noise. This doesn't mean you have to start confronting dudes or flexing harder. In fact, it's the opposite. The more you don't react, the more other men sense something they can't quite explain. It's like walking past a lion that doesn't even look at you. That stillness is scarier than any roar. So here's what to watch for in yourself. Do men listen when you speak, or when you stay quiet? Do they try to challenge you through passive moves, or do they just clear space? The way men react to you reveals how far your energy actually reaches. And once you notice it, it's hard to ignore. Because now, you're not just someone women are curious about. You're someone men feel the need to account for. And that's a whole different kind of power. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed other men adjust when you're around? Then tell me in the comments. I walk unfazed. Because that right there, that's the mark of a man who doesn't chase approval, but earns respect without needing to ask for it. And what happens when you combine that kind of unshakable male presence with the invisible pull that makes women lean in without knowing why? Well, that's where we're headed next. Stick around. Number 10. You're more powerful than you think. You've probably heard the phrase, know your worth. But here's the truth no one tells you. Most men don't. Not because they're weak, not because they're blind, but because the world rarely gives men permission to feel powerful unless someone else validates it. We've been conditioned to believe that our value has to be earned through others, through approval, through attention, through performance. But the paradox, the most powerful men are the ones who act from the belief that they already have it. Let's break this down. A woman doesn't crave the man who's trying to be enough. She's drawn to the one who knows he already is. And the difference isn't about looks, money, or even words. It's about presence. Presence doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need to prove itself. It's what happens when a man trusts that his value isn't up for negotiation. This doesn't mean arrogance. It means clarity. A man with clarity doesn't need constant feedback to know he's doing something right. He moves from inner certainty like a compass locked on true north, regardless of storms. And here's the part you need to hear. You've probably already had glimpses of this. Moments where you didn't chase, didn't explain, didn't overthink. You just were calm, certain, clear. And guess what? In those moments, she noticed. She leaned in. Her body relaxed, her eyes softened, her energy shifted, because she could feel that you weren't trying to get her attention. You were simply being the kind of man who doesn't need it. That's real power, not the kind that shouts, not the kind that demands, the kind that quietly alters the atmosphere when you enter a room. Now here's where Stoicism fits in. The Stoic man doesn't reject emotion. He regulates it. He doesn't chase control. He chooses response over reaction. And when a man lives that way consistently, people around him don't know why they respect him. They just do. Women may not even consciously understand what's pulling them in. But your restraint, your ability to walk away, your refusal to dance for validation, that speaks volumes. So, if you've ever doubted your appeal, here's the truth. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to uncover who you already are, beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, beneath the outdated stories you've been told about what makes a man desirable. You're not missing something. You're just not using all of what's already there. And when you stop seeking power outside of yourself, you become the very thing others are drawn to without even knowing why. Because at the end of the day, the most attractive version of you is the one that finally realizes he doesn't have to try so hard to be seen. He just has to stop hiding. And here's the truth, brother. If you've made it to this point in the video, then deep down, you already know you're not just some guy. You're a man in the process of remembering his power. Not through noise, not through chasing, but through quiet, steady presence. That's what Stoicism sharpens in you. Not emotional numbness, but emotional discipline. Not avoidance, but alignment. Not silence out of fear, but silence that speaks louder than approval. And trust me, she feels it. Even when she says nothing. Especially when she says nothing. So what now? Subscribe to the channel, if you haven't already. This is where we train the modern Stoic mindset for the real world. Masculine, calm, focused. This is where you sharpen the blade. Join the Stoic Brotherhood, our private member community, if you're ready to level up beyond the surface. It's not for everyone, but neither is real growth. You'll know if it's for you. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Keep your mind sharp and your silence sharper.